Let's look at the Frozen Slime Palace. Slime in the Ice Machine. That was, I forget what was his name who did that. He died a while back. He was I don't want to go off track. I lived in Houston for a long time, and there was a famous reporter, news personality, and his name is escaping me, but he was someone who I think he broke it big on the best little illicit sex house in Texas story. As an adult, when I was living in Houston, he'd kind of lapsed into sort of a self-parodying character, but he would do things like bust restaurants who were just filthy, and his big kind of catchphrase was slime in the ice machine. So he'd often say slime in the ice machine. Anyway, I know it's meaningful to maybe 0 people in here, but I couldn't help it. I just wish I could remember his name. I know he died. He wore like purple glasses and he had just shock white hair. He was a character. Here we go. This was posted yesterday, Thursday, the 19th of August, 2021, on the blog, The Lizard Man Diaries. This one is called The Frozen Slime Palace. A friend and I are working on an Android app version of the generic Room Stalker. It's designed to quickly generate random fantasy-ish places for tabletop adventure games. I thought I would give it a whirl to show how it works and how easy it is to put together a place for your game. I gave the locale 4 rooms to avoid me spiraling off into writing a mega dungeon. Here is the Frozen Slime Palace. Whack it on a hex map somewhere. Okay, so they like the generic Room Stalker, which I guess is an iOS app. Kind of good to know it's out there, and they're working one for Android. So folks with Androids folks with Android phones, as opposed to actual Androids. Because if you had an actual Android, you could just have them draw and write up your whole mega dungeon for you. But if you merely had an Android device, this might be the thing for you. And they're showing the output basically as an advertisement for the efficacy of said application. But I'm just curious to check it out. I don't have really an Android device. Well, that's not strictly true. My daughter has a Kindle, and I believe her Kindle device runs on Android, but I don't use it for my own stuff. So we've got a screenshot that says Frozen Slime Palace, number of rooms 4. Okay, and it's a test location. I guess it created a picture. It looks a bit like Slimer, the picture does, from Ghostbusters, or multiple Slimers that merge together into one sort of more giant, heavy goo. And it does have 4 rooms, and it's very simple. It's got passageways between the rooms. In this case, it's a little bit, if you think of a hangar, where the first 3 rooms are connected, the third room being sort of where the hangar would if you think of the wire of a hangar, where the wire would come together, and then the 4th room is sort of the hook, but it's been straightened. And the entrance is at room 1. We are to assume large archways connect each room made of ornately gold gilded frozen slime. So that's colorful. We have room 1. So here we go. So it looks like and I don't know if this matches this generic, what is it called? The generic Room Stalker. But in each room, it gives you a couple of things. It's going to give you some stocking, which is what's in it, atmosphere, what the room is like, ornamentation, which should be, I guess, decorations and general appearance. And then any, looks like large items and potentially more than that. So room 1, stocked with an inhabitant using traps to their advantage against interlopers. All right, it's a little bit vague, but we have an inhabitant, and it looks like in the screenshot below that we will get somewhat of what this inhabitant is. Atmosphere, it's get beneath, upside down, covered, and hidden. I don't know what those are supposed to mean. I guess we'd have to flesh those out. And ornamentations, masks that are ever warping in appearance and incomplete. That's kind of cool. And then there are man cages in the room. That's spooky. I'm not sure what beneath, upside down, covered, and hidden means. I get that maybe it's covered in slime. It's frozen. I don't know what it's... I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. If we look at the inhabitants, we get they're dangerous. The dangerous inhabitant is an appendaged draining circuit, sentinel. All right. So this is almost feels very much both like a tone poem something I would get from a GM emulator where it's like a bunch of metaphors put together. We're gonna have to figure that out. I know what appendages are. I imagine appendage means to have an appendage, but I don't know that's particularly helpful since so many things have appendages. Draining. What ends up happening with these things? I find this problem a lot, right? So you want something generic. You want it to work in any kind of game, but in so doing, you have to rely on such generic descriptors, right? If I knew this was for, say, old school essentials, or they knew, right? They could write in exactly what they mean, more or less, right? What does draining mean, right? What does circuit mean? What does sentinel mean? How many arms does it have? But I think because they're trying to be so broad, hey, you can apply it to a monster of the week, or you can apply it to Monster Hearts, you can apply it to 5th edition, or you can apply it to old school essentials. You end up with kind of stuff that reads a little bit like, at least reads interesting, but it's kind of like fever dreamish, which can also, if you're in the moment, reads a lot like kind of gobbledygook. Like if right off the fly, I need something to put on my players and I pull this up and I get that, it's going to take me a few minutes to parse through that to try to get something. Dave Mills says it's like Mad Libs sometimes. Yeah, right, exactly. It feels like Mad Libs, only the sentences are barely there. It's just like blank, 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 with just a couple of is thrown in. We do get a reaction, which I can certainly dig, which is calmly and serenely, but maybe calm and serene. I'm not sure why they make them adverbs there. The mood is they're calm and serene. You can really only need one of those. You could just say, I feel like you don't need calm and serene. Serene, I like a little bit better because it gives a little bit more flavor than just calm. It's calm and peaceful and almost meditative, whereas calm could be more open. So I don't need both of those. I just need one. Give me serene. And then the action is wanting to attack, which is not really an action. It's a desire, but does that fit? You're serene. I'm serene and I want to attack you. Might not work, but you get a lot of that with random generators. They're not playing off of each other. So you get mood is serene and the action is feverishly trying to attack you. Hard for both of those to be true. I'm sure you can come up with something if you think long enough, but part of what you want out of these is that you don't have to think long enough, because if you had time to think long enough about it, you could have written it all up yourself. But they're still fun. Nothing says, I like these generators, but they seem to underdeliver. Frozen Slime Palace is awesome, but I can make up all the specifics better than an algorithm. Yes, it's almost like, forget the 4 rooms, though this is supposed to be a generic room stalker. So I guess it would be defeating half the purpose. We said, just don't give me the rooms. The Frozen Slime Palace, just as a mental image, really strong. It's almost like, just give me that. See, the gravity in this room, okay, they fed in this stuff, they got the output, and they are now creating descriptions, something out of the output. Let me just go through the rest of these other notes. So we got the inhabitant, and we got their reaction. For the traps, organic, self-replicating, and they target the victim's belly with a belated doom or curse. They feel interesting, but in a super generic kind of way. But let's see how they put all this together. Just to wrap up, here we go. Here's what the app fed us. A room with one creature who's going to use traps to their advantage against interlopers, aka the party. The atmosphere, we've got these keywords beneath, upside down, covered and hidden. There are masks that are ever warping in appearance, and they're incomplete. There are man cages in the room, and this inhabitant is dangerous, appendage, draining, something to do with circuits, and a sentinel. They're calm and serene, but they are wanting to attack, and the traps are organic, self-replicating, and target the belly with belated dooms or curses. So that's all the sort of the raw materials. So let's see what the author here has made of all this. The gravity in this room is reversed, and the thawing slime drips up to the domed ceiling in green, wet stalagmites. Half-formed faces and skulls bob and leer and appear and disappear upside down in the slime walls. Several cages of hardened, that is frozen slime, protrude from the domed ceiling. Inside of those are skeletons and rotting dead men. A green statue of an armored man stands the right way up, surrounded by the up-dripping slime, totally still. Gold circuitry runs across its form. Once interlopers enter the room, it will smash them silently. Why silently? What would be silent about him smashing them? I don't know. With green marble fists, when a punch is landed, a bladed tube enters the target's flesh and begins to sap them of their internal fluids. That's scary. As the statue attacks interlopers, the up-dripping stalagmites of slime coalesce into firm tentacles that attempt to grasp intruders and place them in the ceiling cages. All right, so that's really cool, right? They've taken that and made it pretty cool. I quibble with some of the details, but this is everyone can make these as to what they want in their game. Jackal says, generators are good as a start for inspiration. I tend to get paralyzed by too much choice at the beginning of writing an adventure. Generators and tables help for that. Oh yes, Indeed. I think that's a very good point. And they're awesome for inspiration. I kind of wish more of them would maybe lean into that, because this is clearly kind of what they're doing. This is all inspirational material. But when I read it as a room stalker, I think of something that I'm going to use in the moment. Like, oh, they've come across yet another storage room. Or like I was talking to Alyssa Fain last night. Hey, what do you do with a bunch of rooms that are empty? You don't want them to be empty, right? I need stuff in that room, hit a button and get some stuff and just play. This doesn't really give me that. If I need this in game, I'm going to be in trouble, because I'm going to get this stuff back. It's just going to take me too long. But if I was planning out in the prep for where my party might be going, then this would be really good. And I could sit and muse over these different keywords that they're giving me and come up with something, use them to sort of inspire me. Clearly, they've moved stuff around, because they had the traps were about targeting the belly with a belated doom or curse. I thought kind of that they turned the traps into the stuff in the fists, and they actually had 2 traps. But I see what they're saying here. The organic and self-replicating are the slime tentacles, and the belated doom or curse, they've translated that into the cages. I don't know why I call it a belated doom. What is the belated part of it? You're just straight up doomed. You're in a cage somewhere where you're most likely going to die. So I'm not sure what that is. I like the idea of a bladed tube entering the flesh, beginning to sap them of internal fluids. You could certainly see how that might play into the theme of the slime palace. Maybe these internal fluids actually are the slime. That's how they make more slime through the fluids. Now, nothing says, yeah, what I'd love is what's in the mundane storeroom generator. I can never think of enough worthless junk to make it seem real. Right. That's kind of what I would like. Now, it's kind of boring. I think from a developer standpoint, it doesn't exactly fire the imagination to say, oh, there's so many brooms and there's this much or that much. But yeah, that is in the moment what I might need. This is like a prep help tool, right? An inspirational tool. Should we continue going? Should I do room 2? I am interested to see how much different kind of stuff we get in these rooms. So I'll at least do this room, and then we can reset and see if we want to do the rest of this 4-room donjon. Room 2 is stocked with an inhabitant. I just don't like inhabitant. Can we not just say that it's a creature? Something more descriptive. I know that they're going to have a separate screenshot that gets into it, but I don't know. Inhabitant, I know they want to keep it neutral, but this is GM facing. So if we know the inhabitant is antagonistic, then just say like an antagonistic creature. Like I could just as easily say, just take out this sentence from the inhabitant that's under the inhabitant and just stick it in the main one. Instead of having me go look at stalking and say inhabitant conducting ritual or worship, just say an enormous beetle or enormous lancer beetle. And now granted, a beetle conducting a ritual or worship doesn't make a whole ton of sense, but at least I get it all in one go. You could even add all this stuff up into one. And this is kind of funny because the beetle is friendly and gregarious and open to discussion. But I suppose you'd have to speak beetle or insect or some other thing, but those are nice touches. The other thing I like is if I'm gonna roll on tables, then I understand when you get all kinds of contradictory stuff, because the table for reactions has no idea what the table for inhabitants has rolled up. But what I like when you're running an app or anything in which you're programming multiple tables to talk to each other, that we can, unless we specifically want otherwise, eliminate some of these possibilities. We know we have an enormous beetle. We could say it's friendly or gregarious, but maybe we could send it to a table that says just has animal level moods and not intelligent creature modes. So an animal friendly mood might be, I don't know, non-hostile and not hungry or something, or well-fed, something that would indicate it's not likely to attack you for food and it's not feeling territorial or in the midst of a mating, something that makes more sense, right? Open to discussion as an action. Again, doesn't really feel like an action. That to me is more properly the mood. So you're saying it about its mentality that's open to discussion. It's not actually doing anything. But let's see what they do with these. We have these raw materials. What does this author here make of it? A dome of frozen green slime. Large tables made of the same slime emerge from the floor. On each table is a glowing map of a specific area or building from the region. The map is chiseled directly into the table, hewn of frozen slime. A golden face on each table intones details about the map in a robotic voice. A knight in black carapace armor studies one of the maps, discussing routes and details channelly with a map table's golden face. He leans on his huge barbed insectoid-looking lance, and his massive rhino beetle mount trundles around the room. If disturbed, the knight will regale interlopers of his quest to rescue a larval damsel from waspian ruffians in nearby hive cliffs. He would appreciate companions on this task. dot 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 dum dum dum. They took a fair amount of freedom in making this work. And I like it because the room didn't give us, a knight and a mount, right? It just gave us a beetle. But they took that, they looked at the mood and decided to say, okay, well, the beetle's actually, the real beetle's actually a mount, and this other guy is some kind of beetle knight, I guess. It's not clear whether it's someone wearing just beetle kind of armor or whether they actually are some kind of beetle person rescuing larval damsels, which is a nice kind of comic touch. Waspian ruffians, also a great touch. There's good stuff in here. This is, as far as the inspiration, this stuff's great. Waspian ruffians, larval damsels, knights in black carapace armor. That's good stuff. And I do like the tables and the golden faces. I don't know why they're there, but I kind of like that they're there, and that if you could find this place, you could really get a lot of info. This could be why they've come there. This could be the entire reason why people might come to this place, is they get word of it's dangerous and whatever, but if you can get there, there's this kind of map room where they've got some weird way that they have knowledge of all these places. I dig that. I'm intrigued enough. I'm intrigued enough to go to the room 3. I'm not going to quibble too much on the details. I'm just going to rip through them because really it seems like the most interesting part of this that I'm digging is really just what these guys have made of these descriptors. Room 3 is stocked with device specific and inherent to environment expected but intriguing. The atmosphere is mutative. I think they mean maybe mutative overgrowth and frenzied manic healing. Ornamentations are plants that are covered in flowers and diffused over a larger area than is normal. Large items, holy words inscribed on stone plates. Small items, chains and rope. The device's action is binds. The operation is clarifies nearby surroundings. Dreamy. We have a hut-sized pot of green frozen slime marble that hangs from the dome of this room by emerald chains. The pot is overflowing with a jungle of slime vines and flowers and a rainbow explosion of colors. Foliage creeps up the chains and coats the domed frozen slime ceiling and dangles down over the sides of the pot. Huge golden script covers the visible part of the pot not covered in slime vines. The flowers emit no scent, instead whispering a muttering of many indecipherable voices. If approached, the slime vines will reach out to interlopers. If left, the vines and flowers will wrap around an interloper. I think they mean if left alone. So if they reach out and you don't swat them away or otherwise cut them, then they will wrap around you, muttering whispers overwhelming them. After a few moments of vine foliage embrace, the interloper's consciousness will leave their body and will be able to float high into the air, astral projecting. This process is useful for surveying the nearby region. More cool stuff in here. I feel like I got some really cool ideas I could pull out of this for my own game. I like the idea of, I already talked about it in the other room. I like the idea of the kind of the maps built in, the faces that are almost like they're computerized, that are essentially like you might think of, right? The sort of GPS points of interest you might get when you're accessing your car and you pull up Waze or you pull up Google Maps or something similar and you're asking about places. They could kind of tell you things, which I like. Then you come in here, and this is really interesting because it feels like a really bad trap. When I started reading through this, right after I read that muttering whispers overwhelm them, I thought, wow, that's, what are we talking about? Death saves and death? But it doesn't seem that way. They don't mention that. It mentions instead that it ends up giving you a method to astral project and therefore fly around and explore this region. And of course, I'm thinking maybe there's dangerous stuff out there on the astral plane of this region, so that there's some risk to doing this. It's just not a free flyby. But that's really cool. I like what it's adding to. If you have this region that you want the party to explore, you could have a place like this that allows them to get some information about the region, kind of scout it out in a way different from normally scouting, but it's in a sort of a dangerous place. It's got traps around. You have to in a way discover some of these things. This one, how many parties are going to let themselves get wrapped around with these flowers and go, but the reward is, and maybe then you don't, the reward is maybe then you don't need an extra consequence because they really have to allow themselves to almost go into a death state to pass through, unlock that astral form, and then they can fly around. So cool stuff. And then we've got the final room. It's empty. It's a place of physical storage. The atmosphere is encasement in crystal and mineral calcification. The ornaments are tiny cages that are burnt and foul. Got some large items, transportation boxes of anti-magic, mystical, or physic powers. And then we have some small items, decorative metal ornaments. And what do they make with it? Columns of clear, green-tinged frozen slime fill this domed room. Floating within each are fist-sized metal boxes of ornate gold. Touching the frozen slime columns with the circuit-covered marble of the statue from room 1 makes the slime soft and malleable. Allows the extraction of the golden boxes. When placed on a flat surface, the boxes miraculously unpack into three-dimensional metal maps of random regions of the world, incredibly realistic and accurate. All right, so this one's interesting, right? So we got frozen slime column, but they don't really make clear, but presumably you can't get through, can't just walk through them. But if you can, I might do something a little bit more, maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say firm. I guess what I mean is more of a real barrier, right? Because it's interesting that you could, if you defeated that statue in the trap room and took that circuit, and I imagine if you did defeat the statue, most parties would probably pick up the circuit. And if you thought to kind of slap it on here, then you get rewarded by able to get those gold boxes. And I would probably do is make the gold boxes maps of this region, because what I really like about what they've done with this location, it really feels in the context of some place, some region. So I would want so they already had tied other rooms into exploring the region. You get a map that you can't take with you of the region, but you can talk to someone, get information. You get a place that will let you project into the region astrally. And then finally, you get a place where you can find one of these maps. If you can figure out this puzzle of getting through the frozen slime, then you can essentially have one of these maps and take it with you. So that's how I would work it. But that's really good. I don't know if I love the generator as a thing. I mean, it might be fun to play around with, like folks were mentioning in the chat, play around with just to get inspiration. I'm not sure as an actual room stalker, I would use it. But if I were them, I would make this frozen slime palace and actually make it a thing. Maybe not call it a palace. It's only 4 rooms like that, unless you're doing kind of a 5-room dungeon style thing. Maybe make it something else. But I could see turning that into an actual location, statting out some stuff. I like it. And it's got the slime is a nice theme that they use running through it. So that was that from Lizard Man Diaries.